Well, hi again, everybody. Welcome to another episode of 100 Yards of Football. This is your college weekly preview show. Along with Vincent Turner, I'm Harper LeBel. And Vincent, thank you for getting back together with me. It's been a while since we've been on the air, just the two of us. And with the weekly show that we put together, there are some things that have happened in the last couple of weeks that keep building, keep escalating, get you one step closer. So there can be 5 games that we're going to talk about that have national significance to it. And there's plenty of games that we could discuss that may not have the national prominence, but certainly have conference importance. And let me name one or two of them, if you don't mind me. On Friday, you got Clemson and Louisville. Louisville is, what are they, number 15 in the country. Oregon is playing Minnesota. 6-3 Minnesota going out, playing a late game. I don't really like it. If it were in Minnesota, I'd have a completely different take on this one. But that's one. Iowa, USC, Wisconsin, Indiana, South Carolina, A&M. Even here in Atlanta, Georgia Tech at 8-1 going against BC. In order to stay where you need to be in the ACC standings, you better win this game. Don't take any time off. Virginia at Duke. Virginia, number 19 in the country. They're 8-2 right now. Not a whole lot of folks are talking about Virginia, but if they win out, do they have a chance? TCU and BYU. BYU is number 12 in the country. They're 8-1. But BYU can throw it. Josh Hoover is something special. What has he got? 25 touchdowns, only 8 interceptions. There are some great games that are going on, but we're not going to talk about those games. We do have 5 that are definitely of more importance and do have the national significance. I'm glad you picked the ones that you did.
College football time, my brother. We're going to get down to 12 teams in the next few weeks. And when that's said and done, the real action starts. It's all about the national championship. Which team on January the 19th is going to raise this index? Number 1 in the country. And that's what it's all about. And right now I'm excited because we got college football coming to a level that has never been seen. Back to you, Mr. Harper LeBel.
Well, let's start with the first game. Notre Dame, the Fighting Irish, go to Pitt. They're going to play at Shore Stadium. It'll be 50 degrees, partly sunny. Notre Dame, after losing to Miami and Texas A&M, they have not lost since. They have played USC, and they have another ranked opponent here in Pitt right now. So they're both 7-2. Here's what I'm going to start with. Pitt's defense. Their offense is pretty doggone good. Their 39 points a game is 6th in the country. Their defense gives up 21 points a game, which is about 43rd. But they have 24 sacks, 10 interceptions, 5 fumble recoveries. They can get some turnovers. They've been able to get 1 or 2 a game and really done some really interesting but good things. This will be the biggest test of the season for them. And then Notre Dame also, they're number 9 in the country right now. They're 7-2. Give me your thoughts here on the Notre Dame at Pitt game.
I'm going to say this. I'm not going to butcher his last name, but I'm going to call him the head coach at Pitt. I like him a lot, Patrick Ian. Maybe you can help me out with his last name. He was at the podium this past week, and he said that it don't matter if they lose to Notre Dame or not. All they have to worry about is the ACC. But let me tell you something, sir. This is a huge football game because what you got to understand, the committee is going to take into consideration this football game right here. As you just mentioned, Harp, they got an outstanding defense, the Pitt Panthers. 2 linebackers, Braylon Lovelace and Kyle Lewis, 2 of the best linebackers in the country. But they're playing a Notre Dame team that we said this at the beginning that's ranked number 9 in the country. What did me and you say? If they go 1-2 and run the rest of the table, what did we say they were going to do? Make the college?
They're in. Just count it.
Thank you. And I'm going to tell you something. When you look at Notre Dame, Marcus Freeman, you got to give him a lot of love. This is a very dangerous Notre Dame team. They beat Navy last week 49-10. They had 252 yards passing, 252 rushing, very balanced. They got 2 of the best players in the country. And Tom Brady said this on his podcast this week. He said, you know what? The most impressive quarterback in the country is C.J. Carr. And who do he play with? The Notre Dame Fighting Irish. And even though he don't get a lot of Heisman, I want to say excitement by his name, and he only got 998 yards, but he got 13 touchdowns. If Notre Dame runs the table, he need to be up in New York, Jeremiah Love, because he's definitely the best football player in the country at the running back position. In this game right here, I expect the Fighting Irish going to roll. And they're going to end up in the college football playoffs, and they're going to be a team that I don't want to see when that 12-team format start, because they got a team that can go all the way and win it. Touchdown, Jesus. Back
Yeah.
to you, Hop.
Yeah, they got to the final last year, and nobody thought they would even get that far or even get in. Jeremiah Love, he has 988 yards, 13 touchdowns, as you mentioned. CJ Carr, 19 touchdowns, 4 interceptions. He's been sacked 10 times. Will Paulding, watch for him, folks. Wide receiver Will Paulding. He's got 5 touchdowns for the Irish right now. He's the leader. He doesn't have the most catches or the most yards, but he can get in the end zone. And here's what surprises me about Notre Dame right now: 25 sacks, 35 pass deflections. They've got 16 interceptions on that roster. They've got 2 or 3 fumble recoveries, but doggone their secondary. They are headhunters. The way that you have that immaculate but very fragile connection between your defensive line, your linebackers, and your secondary. When one is working well, the other should be working well, and when all three are bringing it, you get 25 sacks, you get 16 interceptions. So congratulations to Notre Dame for defensively. They give up 18 points a game. They're 18th in the country. And I mentioned Pitt gives up about 21 points a game. Remember, Notre Dame had those 2 losses, so those kind of count against that average in a way that makes you go, I know whatever. But they're still in the top 20 in just about every category. Passing, they're 26th. Rushing, they're 20th. Total scoring, they're top 10 in the country with 38 points a game, and their defense is 18th by giving up 18 points a game. The Irish are back. They've earned my respect slowly but surely. No, they haven't played an SEC or a Big Ten schedule, but they're winning when they need to be. And would they qualify right now? I think they're ranked a little high. They should probably be in the mid-teens, but they're ranked number 9. I can't do anything about that. Neither can you, Vincent.
No question about it. As I just mentioned a few seconds ago, what did we say? Even though Notre Dame lost to Texas A&M and Miami at the beginning, we all saw this coming. They run the table. They're in the college football playoffs, and I'm going to say it one more time. When the Irish get there, I do not want to see them because they got a team that can win it all. And C.J. Carr, Lloyd Carr's grandson, he's playing outstanding football. And one thing I'm going to mention, one other key point to Notre Dame. To beat a team like Notre Dame, you got to really beat them because they're not going to turn the ball over. They're going to play very balanced football. They're going to be able to pass. They're going to be able to rush it. And on defense, they're going to make key plays. And that's a formula of their head coach. That's why LSU right now, as we talk about behind closed doors, is trying to get Marcus Freeman to make a visit. Back to you, Hop.
Yeah, interesting scenario there, but you're right. Because Notre Dame can throw it, because CJ Carr is good enough to be able to get down the field, and because they can score points, even if they get behind by 7, 10, 14 points, 17 points, it doesn't matter. They can catch up without going out of their game plan. That's the thing about it. You get a run team, you force them to start throwing the ball, man, there's bad stuff that can happen all over the place. Back in the day when you had Oklahoma or you had any of those wishbone. Remember when Ohio State used to run the veer and the wishbone?
Yes, sir.
Could not catch up. So they absolutely had to dominate the running game and the clock. And they were forced to do things when they got behind that sometimes turned out ugly for them. But anyways, should be a great game. This one, obviously, Notre Dame and Pitt will be taking place there in Pittsburgh. And just a big game there for that region. It'll be packed, and get your tickets early when you can because it should be a barn burner for those two. All right, let's look at Oklahoma. And I got a bad camera right here. What am I doing? This is what I wanted to do. Oklahoma and Alabama. Sooners are 7-3. They're 3-2 in the conference. They're kind of middle of the road. They're still ranked number 11, though, Vincent. That's the thing that surprises me, that everybody likes them as much as they do. They may not. If they go to Bryant-Denny Stadium and take on Alabama, they're 8-1. They're 6-0 in the conference. Alabama, gosh, what a different team you see now versus what they opened up the season with. You talk about the 2 losses that Notre Dame had early in the season. I know there are plenty of Alabama fans that are going, man, if it wasn't for Florida State, everything else. And look who they played: Wisconsin, Georgia, Vanderbilt, Missouri, Tennessee, South Carolina. They got Oklahoma. Then they get Eastern Illinois as that pre-Auburn game. And this is really the last test that they have on their schedule this year. No, I'm not saying Auburn will be easy. I'm just saying in terms of their ranked opponents and teams that they should beat, if they take care of business here on Saturday, it should be smooth sailing for the rest of the season.
Pressure breaks pipes. This is a huge football game. If Alabama wins this game, they're probably in the college football playoffs, regardless what happens the rest of the season. Oklahoma, the pressure is on you, baby.
Yep.
You had a very impressive win over Tennessee, but I think Oklahoma is still not where they were early on before John McTeer had that injury. So I'll make it plain and simple. OU, you're going into Tuscaloosa this Saturday with a must-win situation because you lose this football game, you're on the outside looking in the college football playoffs. And John McTeer has to play well on Saturday.
Yes, he does. Yeah.
OU defense, that's what's kept them in the mix. 34 sacks on the year, but going over the Tuscaloosa, you playing against a red-hot quarterback. If he has the game that I think he's going to have, you might as well stamp the Heisman to Ty Simpson out of the state of Tennessee, Martin, Tennessee, 80 miles from my hometown, the 901. Don't get mad, Hop.
Come
But at
on.
the end of the day,
Without talking about Tennessee, we can't do it.
Ty Simpson, 21 touchdowns. And Alabama, the one crazy thing about this, they have not been able to run the football. They rank 116th in the country.
Yeah.
But you know what they got? They got 3 NFL receivers. Jeremy Bernard, Ryan Williams, Isaiah Horton, outstanding receiving core, and their defense has played pretty well over the last few weeks. Bray Hubbard, Dante Lawson. This is a very great balanced Alabama football team. And it's good that you brought up something. See, I'm going to put it out there and put your Alabama fans on blast. See, after the Florida State game, I listened to a lot of stations coming out of the state of Alabama, and you wanted to run Caleb DeBoer out of town.
Yes, he did.
It's amazing now how much you love Caleb DeBoer. It's amazing. That's what I call fair weather fans. But the end of the day, roll tide. But the pressure is on OU. It's no question about it. And you know what? That's going to be a good football game on Saturday. And it's reminiscence of the 1962 Orange Bowl. Joe Namath, MVP, Leroy Jordan, 33 tackles. Back to you, Harp.
You said the pressure is on OU. I think the pressure, if it comes from OU, could be the difference in this game. Here's what I mean. You mentioned the amount of sacks they had and whatever. Alabama has a total of 1,007 yards in 10 games. They can't rush the ball very well. And if you force them out of their game plan right now and force them to run, at least you're going to stand a fighting chance. That's the way I'm looking at it right now. If I'm the Oklahoma defensive coordinator or anyone on that staff or the guy that takes the garbage out for them, I'm going, if we can stop their passing game, if we can get pressure, if we can deflect some passes, we get a pick or two or a fumble recovery off something that a guy does down the field, that's how we're going to win this game. You've got to stop that passing game. Ty Simpson has 21 touchdowns, 1 interception, and he's been sacked 15 times. So for me, I'm reading this guy is a ball control guy. He's going to throw to the guy, and if it's an incompletion, he's okay with that. I just don't want to turn the ball over. So force the Alabama Crimson Tide to run. Leading rusher is Jam Miller with 321 yards. That's Sunbelt level play. You know what I mean? For SEC, that's low. Tell me I'm wrong, Vincent, but I'm thinking if Oklahoma is going to pull the surprise of the year and stay in the top 15, they're number 11 right now, and move up and supplant Alabama, that defensively you've got to be able to slow down their passing game.
Well, to me, I seem it's very simple as you just brought it, Mr. LeBel. You put pressure on Ty Simpson, you shut down their passing game, and you force Alabama to run. But one thing I learned about Oklahoma, think about this last game against Tennessee. They didn't really do nothing in the first half. I think they didn't even have 100 yards, but they had 3 turnovers, and they led the game in halftime 16-10. So that's telling me that Oklahoma, regardless, they're going to still play good defense. And all I can say is it's like the great Jamel Holloway. Boomer, sooner. Pressure is on you to win on Saturday, or you're going to be out of playoffs if you lose. Back to you, Mr. LeBel.
Well, it should be interesting. I'm looking at the numbers here. Forgive me if I take my eyes away. Alabama has 5 receivers with at least 20 catches, 8 receivers with at least double digits. They've got another Daniel Hill that has 9 catches. So they're slinging it. And that's not usual Alabama football. And for all the folks that were saying, Caleb DeBoer needs to go, aren't you glad that you, even though in silence, pump the brakes in just a little bit, then that you're where you need to be? Now, I'm just talking about this as if, there's something to worry about. If Alabama plays its game and you got 103,000 people minus about 4,000 that are going to go to the stadium wearing a different shade of crimson, the OU fans that are going to be there. I'm telling you, it should be a great game, and I'm interested to see how it turns out, but I think Alabama wins it. But my strategy, if I'm Oklahoma, is what I just mentioned a little while ago. All right, let's talk about Ole Miss and the Florida Gators. Thank goodness that the Florida Gator fans have not given up on the team. They've done okay. They've had a tremendously difficult schedule. They're 3-6. They're going into Vaught Hemingway. It should be about 69 degrees and clear at the game time. But Ole Miss at 9-1. They're 5-1 in the conference. Just Georgia. If I'm Lane Kiffin, I'm going, man, if we'd just done this or that a little bit differently against Georgia, we'd still be undefeated right now. But you know what? They're number 7 in the country, and tell me why they're going to play well and beat the Gators.
Well, right now, I'm going to start with a couple of things. I'm going to start with you, sir. You saw Ole Miss up and close and personal, the second game of the year?
First
And
game.
first game, and I remember what you said. Even though they didn't have Trinidad Chambliss at the quarterback position, but you said Ole Miss got receivers, Vincent. They got 4 or 5, and they're going to be hard to defend on the outside. See, people who listen to the show today, this man right here, that handsome Clark Kent Harper LeBel, said that. Everybody on the platform looked at him like we was crazy, even me. I said, oh, man, what are you talking about? He said Ole Miss offense is going to be good this year. Now, think about this, Harper. You Lane Kiffin. I think Lane Kiffin is 51 years old, still a good-looking guy, does his yoga in the steam tub. Can you imagine getting up every morning and he's on the list of Florida being the next head coach, LSU, Auburn, Penn State, and then last week he's linked to be the head coach with the New York Giants. And your team is number 6 in the country. And your quarterback is thrown for 2,356 yards.
Yep.
And you got a running back for 912. And I'm going to let you give the receiver names. They got at least 4 or 5 receivers over 400 yards. Of course, Harper, they're going to roll on Saturday against the Florida Gators. And even though Florida, they lost their coach and they might have played well over the last couple of weeks against Georgia, but let's be honest, they took a step back against Kentucky. They gave up 235 yards rushing in a 38-7 loss. And they worried about their best player, DJ Legway, is going to leave Florida at the end of the season. But if I'm down in Oxford, Mississippi, and I'm looking at Lane Kiffin, I'm saying, man, life can't be no better. You rumored to be the next head coach at LSU, Florida, Penn State, Auburn. I even saw UCLA. Now with the New York Giants, you're reuniting with Jackson Dart, the guy that you coached for the last 3 seasons at Ole Miss. Your life has got to be great. I wish that I was in your shoes. And you got the number 6 team in the country, and your offense is humming. The days of Archie Manning and Eli are coming back. Back to you, Harper.
Too bad you're not getting excited about it. Your defense has 21 sacks, 5 interceptions, 3 fumble recoveries, but you asked me to mention the receiving core. Harrison Wallace has 579 yards. He's averaging 16 yards a catch. Deuce Alexander has 467 yards. He's averaging 15.6 per catch. Daquan Wright, tight end, Daquan Wright. He's got 25 receptions for 450 yards, 18 yards of reception. That's Keith Jackson numbers. Fella. Caden Lee has 412. Deshaun Stribling, feel bad for him. He's only got 391 yards after 10 games, 13 yards per catch. And every one of them has double digit or at least a touchdown, except for Deuce Alexander. They got 17 scores through the air so far this season. I'm just watching them run deep crossing routes and waiting for the secondary from the defense to kind of split or move or find a spot, and then you break. not the other way around. You don't break when you get to 18 yards. When you're about 13 yards, you're going to take another steps, but you're free to move across the middle of the field at 13 or 17 or 22. It's kind of read on the fly, and it's a next step generationally that I noticed that it was amazing. You give a quarterback that much time to throw, and that's Florida's obligation. They better get to the quarterback, or else it's going to be lights out for them. Trinidad Chambliss is going to throw the ball all over the place, but Ole Miss should get a win here, don't you think? I mean, I'm not predicting, or I gave it over to you saying, Ole Miss is going to win this game. No, Florida's going to fight like crazy. I just think Ole Miss on paper and then on the field will be just enough to be better than Florida.
No question about it, but I think the Rebels are going to roll, man. I think Florida right now is reeling a little bit. I go back to last week against Kentucky. I had Florida winning that football game. They lose that football game 38-7 and give up 235 yards on the ground. Now you come into an Ole Miss team. Their head coach is the hottest coaching candidate right now on both levels in the collegiate ranks and in the NFL ranks. And one thing about Lane Kiffin, he's still a good looking guy. And let's be honest, did we ever think that Lane Kiffin was going to take Ole Miss to this level? The answer is no. He's got Ole Miss as a top 10 program in the country. And they one of them teams that when they get to the college football playoffs, I don't want to see them because believe me, you're going to have to really have a good defense to shut Ole Miss down if they're clicking on all levels. Back to you, Harp.
Well, let's look at Ohio State's defense or Indiana's defense or Oregon's defense or something like that. They're not used to having to cover for the length of time that Ole Miss demands that you do. If their offensive line is able to protect, it's a completely different ballgame because you're going to have guys coming open late that Trinidad will be able to find. Now, if the Indiana or Ohio State or Oregon defense or whoever it is, A&M, it doesn't matter. If they're able to get to the quarterback and force him to throw early, it's a completely different ball game. That's what I'm saying. It's what I noticed. But long story short, it's going to be a good game, and Ole Miss is just one more step closer to where they need to be, playing for an SEC championship. All right, let's look at the next game that we're going to talk about. This is the first of the evening games. There's a 7:00 kick on the East Coast time in Ohio Stadium. Now, you go to the Horseshoe. UCLA. They're 3-6. They struggled early. They were 0-4. They fire their coach. They get 3 wins in a row against Penn State, Michigan State, and Maryland. They've lost 2 now. They lost to Indiana in a close. Excuse me. I'm sorry. It's 56-6. There was a close win at Maryland, but then Indiana just drills them, and then they lose a 7-point game. 28-21. I think they're still reeling from that. They're not as good as they were hoping that they could bounce back to be. But going up against the number 1 team in the country, that's formidable against anybody. I see the Buckeyes just basically easily handling this one.
You're totally correct. UCLA. Remember when they fired Deshaun Foster, the one thing I said, what has happened to this program that's had so many great players, Kenny Easley and Gary Beeman? They tend to get the ship right. Jerry Newhouser, the offensive coordinator, after the 3 wins in a row, he was in the locker room, yo, UCLA, dun, 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 dun. And he had the Bruins going, but they came back down to earth. And Nico, I hated that you left the University of Tennessee. You've had a decent season, 1,600, 59 yards passed and 12 touchdowns, 7 interceptions. But Harper, think about the last time he was in Columbus under center for the University of Tennessee and what happened. And the reason I remember that game is that I was really, really on Tennessee's, I want to say, jock, excuse my language. And I was talking smack. And a lot of people within this platform, I say, okay. And the Tennessee came into Columbus with the overalls, and I say Nico I is going to put his game to another level. They left out of that stadium that night, 42-17 on the different end. Now, Nico you return into the Horseshoe. And clearly the Ohio State Buckeyes have been the quietest number 1 team in the country. They just went on and handled their business week in and week out. Last week they beat Purdue 34-0. Their quarterback Julian Sand. A lot of people saying he's going to be in New York. I let Hop give the stats. NFL talent. Jeremiah Smith. I'm gonna let Hop get out, give the stats. NFL talent. Cornell Tate, NFL talent. Avell Reese, NFL talent. Sonny Styles, NFL talent. Caleb Downs, NFL talent. It's no question about it. The Buckeyes are the number one team in the country, and that's where the national championship is going to go through Columbus. So that being said, UCLA doesn't have a prayer. And all I can say is this: I hope Nico I stays straight up on Saturday afternoon or Saturday night because the Buckeyes are not going to slow down. And Woody Hayes is looking down from heaven, hopefully, and saying, this is what Buckeyes football is all about. The Ohio State Buckeyes. Back to you, Hop.
Well, you mentioned the stats. Let me look at UCLA first. They're 112th and 111th in scoring and in defense. That's just not going to cut it against. Here's Ohio State's number. They're 36.3 points per game. That's what they score. That's 18th. So they're top 20. Their defense is 7.2 points per game. That's number one in the country. Okay. Now they played Texas. They've had Grambling, Ohio, uh, Wisconsin. They shut them out. Purdue, 34-10 was the final last week there. They've got Rutgers, and then they go to Michigan this year and hopefully redeem themselves from last year's loss. But most Ohio State fans would say, I would rather beat Michigan and lose in the playoff, which I struggle with that. I just do. How do you win a national championship and not be delighted that they do so, even though you lost against Michigan at home? Big deal. You lose to Michigan. I know it's a big deal, but when you win the national championship, it's really not. It doesn't matter. If you're going to lose to anybody, I don't care. Anyway, so Ohio State, gosh, they're formidable, and as you mentioned, everyone on that roster is good. They can play. They're all 4 and 5-star recruits. Julian Sayin, 24 touchdowns, 4 interceptions. He's been sacked 5 times. He's thrown for 2,400 yards. That's right up there with the top. He's a national leader in that stance. They've rushed for 1,396 yards. They're way up where they need to be in a national perspective with that. And then you got Jeremiah Smith with 65 receptions and 10 touchdowns. He's averaging 13.3 every time he touches the ball. Carnell Tate, 711 yards. He's averaging 2 every time he touches the ball. So they've got talent everywhere. There are too many people that you got to cover with a guy that's just not quite as good. And they'll find it. They'll expose it. And that's the thing about Ohio State right now. They are rolling.
The Buckeyes are going to keep rolling, man. They're the number one team in the country. They're proving it week in and week out. Going to be really nice to see them playing the college football playoffs. And I wouldn't worry about that Michigan game. I think they're going to beat Michigan this year in Ann Arbor. I'm putting my money on Ohio State. Back to you, Hop.
Well, that game is at a 7:30 kick on NBC. And then finally, we're going to come back here to Georgia. We're going to talk about the Bulldogs. The number 10 team in the country, that's the Texas Longhorns. They are 7-2. They're 4-1 in the conference. They come into Sanford Stadium where it should be about 62 degrees and clear, and it will get a little bit colder than that. In other words, the temperature will drop into the mid 50s pretty much as soon as the sun goes down, and some of that brown liquor wears off just a little bit. But the number 5 team in the country, they really were impressive to me against Mississippi State last week because all the Mississippi State Bulldog and cowbell shaking people that had shows on, oh, we're going to win this one. Our Bulldogs are going to beat their Bulldogs. No, it was a blowout, pretty much. It was a blowout. And Georgia's offense showed up when they needed to. I'm not sure how they're going to do this time, but give me your perspective, at least in terms of what the Bulldogs need to do in order to hold off the visiting Longhorns.
I'm going to be honest about something I'm going to be very real about. When I moved to this area in 1996, the Georgia football program was like in the middle of the road under Jim Donovan. Then he went through the years of Mark Rick. He got him back to a level that was respectable. But to be honest, I've never seen the Georgia football program being at this level. I think they got the best coach in the country. I think their program is the best. And think about this. They have been very consistent under Kirby Smart. I think he's what in his 10th year, 2 national championships. They're constantly playing, being in the top 5 every year. This year, this what impresses me the most about Georgia. They lost so much the last 2 or 3 years on their roster. It's like the next man up. And coming into this season, the biggest question was at the quarterback position. Gunnar Stockton has made me a believer. And if we had to say Heisman trophies and people being in New York, last week he earned a seat there. 264 yards, 3 touchdowns. He has played very well. And then we know Georgia eventually is going to be able to run the football. The young man out of LA, Mr. Nate Frazier from your part of the country, Hop. What did he have? Some crazy number, 186 yards, averaged almost 15 yards a carry. And that Georgia offensive line was on fire, 305 yards rushing against Mississippi State. And I'm not even going to mention the defense. Remember, they was talking about the problems the defense had, especially after the Ole Miss game.
Right.
But I'm going to tell you, a gentleman that comes out of your neck of the woods, out of Buford High School, KJ Bolden, he might be the best safety that Georgia's ever had. He's been playing at an NFL level, 10 tackles last week against Mississippi State. And for some reason, Georgia always has a linebacker that goes to the NFL and perform. Quay Walker, N'Kobe Dean, Raquan Smith. You know what? C.J. Allen is going to be the next kid coming out of Georgia that's going to play at a high level in the NFL. Now for the Texas Longhorns, elimination game. A lot of money going to be in Athens. The oil millionaires are coming down from Austin. Biggest money, the biggest state in Texas. Saturday night, Kirk Hurd Street. On the mic, ABC, Ryan Fowler, Chris Fowler, excuse me. I don't know why I called him Ryan. Hey, it's going to be must-see TV over there in Athens, baby. And all I can say is this. Arch Manning is playing a little better football. Well, Archie, you from Drew, Mississippi, baby. 20 miles from where my mother's born. Your grandson going to have the best game of the season to keep Texas playoff hopes alive. Because Georgia's going to be ready to play on Saturday night. And you know what? I'm going to be very grateful to be able to watch that football game. I think it's going to be the best game of the year in college football.
Mm.
Back to you, Hop.
Yeah. Interesting perspective on that. Let's look at Georgia's numbers first. They're 29th at 33 points per game scoring. They give up 19.8, so just under 20, and they're 24th there. Not super impressive, but they're getting it done when they need to. They play Tennessee, Alabama, Ole Miss, Texas, and then they'll finish against Georgia Tech in about 3 weeks. There's a reason that playing those 5 ranked opponents will obviously have some bearing, but obviously the SEC championship, getting there and figuring that out. If you get in and lose, will you still be in? Don't know. Just don't know. But I think if they run the table, they beat Texas. They have Charlotte next, and then they've got a Georgia Tech meeting in Sanford Stadium. I'm sorry, that's a neutral site, isn't it? That's going to be at the Dome. They'll be at Mercedes this year, so it'll be an interesting perspective there. But Georgia's, for obvious reasons, they're always there, and Kirby gets them right when they need to be right in a way that very few others do. Texas, they're 61st in the country with scoring at 29 points a game. It's just a half, it's 4 points less than what Georgia's averaging, but it's still enough to make a difference between being in the top 30, top 20 versus being in the middle of the pack at 61. Their defense, though, still brings it. They give up 16.4 a game, and they're 10th in the country. So they can play defense, and they've done so. The first part of their season, right? They start against Ohio State. They got San Jose, the UTEP. They had Sam Houston. They lose to Florida. That's still one of those ones that's a backbreaker for them. But then they had Oklahoma, Kentucky, Mississippi State, Vanderbilt just last week. They got Georgia, and then Texas A&M. So you're right. This is the one. If they lose this, it's over, and A&M won't mean anything. But they're 7-2 right now. Final thoughts, Vincent. Well, there's a lot on the line for both of these teams. Someone's going to come away with win. Who wins more by getting where they need to be this weekend?
Well, you can look at it 2 ways. If Georgia wins this football game, they're most likely locked up a playoff spot,
Okay.
regardless what happens in the Georgia Tech game. This is a win-win situation for Texas. The Arch Manning hoopla at the beginning of the season, he can kind of reclaim that he was the best generational talent at the quarterback position if he goes to Athens and has an excellent football game. But if Texas loses this game, there's a lot of rumors coming out of Austin whether or not Steve Sarkisian's going to return because you know what? He been rumored for the New York Giants job. Rumors are he might go to the Cleveland Browns. Rumors are he might jump to your old team since you're a fabulous Falcon. And we know what we're not going to get in the NFL, but if the Falcons season keeps going off the rails, he might be the next head coach with the Atlanta Falcons. So there's a lot of implications behind this football game. But to make a long story short, it's a must-win game from the University of Texas. And you can't tell me if Texas misses the playoffs with all that talent they say allegedly they have on their roster and a generation quarterback with Arch Manning, it's going to be a disappointing season in the state of Texas. And that millionaire money is not going to be happy. Back to you, former Falcon, my man, Clark Kent, Mr. Harper LeBel.
Well, you threw a lot out there, and it's interesting. I think one of the most, I'll call it luxurious jobs in all of sports would be the head coach of the Texas Longhorns. And for somebody to want to leave that, there's got to be some writing on the wall that I am not seeing. I think Steve would want to stay there as long as he could. And if he does get a national championship, he'll have at least a statue or something that'll be a part of that. But you don't get it if you don't stay. So that's the interesting thing. Him and Lane Kiffin, we discussed both of those today. So we're a long way from being the ones that make those decisions. But for certain reasons, we can talk about it and at least look at different perspectives. And we appreciate you guys tuning in to us to hear. You probably disagree at times. That's fine. But occasionally there's a point that you go, man, I hadn't thought about it that way. That's worth the mention. And it's thought provoking. That's what we're here to do. So for Vincent Turner, I'm Harper LeBel. We want to say thank you for tuning in. This is 100 Yards of Football, and this has been our college football preview show for Week 12 here in the NCAA. We've had a chance to look at some of the big games that are going to be taking place this weekend. For example, we're going to talk about – I got to get my piece of paper back. Notre Dame and Pitt. For many in the Midwest, that's a super important game. SEC challenge right there between Oklahoma and Alabama. You've got Florida and Ole Miss right now. Pay attention, folks. I don't care if you're in the West, the East, or anywhere in between. Watch out for Ole Miss now. Have a few things in mind in terms of how my team is going to have to play against them. UCLA and Ohio State, yeah, it's another Midwest game, obviously, but Ohio State, they're for real, folks, and you better be ready to play them as well. And then obviously national implications with Texas and Georgia. We've looked at them all, so we appreciate you being a part of the show. We want to thank you for tuning in to 100 Yards of Football, and like always, we want to